Hi, my friends call me Sweets. I'm Sweet as Honey and Sweet as Honey 2.0, and I will tag them below. I'm going to be responding to Kimberly. Her comment is referring to the theory that has been flying around that when Gypsy Rose Blanchard was unaliving her mother, or Nicholas Godejohn was unaliving her mother, that she gave her mother the old 1-2 to the nose. She states that it is in the autopsy. Now, when I first started this case, if you don't know me by now, a year ago in March, which today we are in August 2026, I just simply started by reading Gypsy Rose's book and finding the lies between the pages. And then I would make videos and talk about the lies here on this app on TikTok. After being a TikToker on Bambi Man, my main account for 5 years, I created Sweet as Honey to go ahead and talk about true crime, with Gypsy Rose being my first case. At the time, I had no idea that Gypsy Rose would then stalk me, harass me, dox me, call my phone with her cult. She would message me from fake accounts. She would comment on my page from her real account. She would hashtag me and finally cosplay me and say, if I ended up with her mom, know where to look. Now, since when I came on this app, I did not see a lot of proof, and that's what I was looking for. I once saw a video of this woman, and I was going through something in my life at the time, talking about how Gypsy Rose had promised her 13-year-old unborn child to the prospective father of her children to lose her virginity to him. And she said she hoped they had lots of children, and then that was the way that it has to be. I was very disturbed and wanted to see more proof and evidence on this case. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over the evidence of the autopsy of DeeDee Blanchard. We're going to be looking for proof on the autopsy that Gypsy Rose punched her mother in the face, in the nose. There was blood coming out of her nose and pooling in that area. If you go and look at the crime scene photos, which I cannot share on this app, it would also be a huge trigger warning to see. So keep in mind anything else that stands out to you while we go over the autopsy of DeeDee Blanchard. Claudina DeeDee Blanchard. We are looking at the postmortem examination of the body of Claudine, aka DeeDee Blanchard. And I want you to notice right away that it's spelling her name as Blanchard. This is not her name. I'm not sure why on a legal document they would be misspelling her name. On June 15, 2015, at the Greene County Medical Examiner's Office in Springfield, Missouri, a post-mortem examination was performed on the body of Claudine DeeDee Blanchard, an adult female. The autopsy was performed under the authority of Missouri state law. The examination was conducted by medical examiner Jeff Harkey, assisted by Tom Vandenberg of the Medical Examiner's Office, and was begun at 12:50 p.m. All right, so it's going to talk about her history, where she lived, who she lived with. It says no resuscitation efforts were begun, meaning nobody ever tried to resuscitate DeeDee. She was unalive by the time they got there, which was days after the unalive. They pronounced her dead at 3:13 p.m. on June 14, 2015. The Greene County Medical Examiner's death investigator was called to the scene and reported that Claudine had incised wounds of the neck and multiple stab wounds of the back and torso. And then it's going to go into her past medical history of asthma, gastroesophageal reflux disease, thyroid disease, diabetes, headache, hyperlipidemia, and hysterectomy and colostectomy. Her prescription medications were not listed in the medical record. It was reported that medications at the scene were collected by the Greene County Sheriff's Office. It says the body was received with a body bag that was secured with a tamper evidence seal. And I think it's great that they decided that they were going to put a tamper evidence seal on the bag after, David Blanchard was actually the first one at the crime scene. And who knows what could have been done in the time that he was in the house with the body, claiming that there was no one in the house. The body was of a well-developed, obese, white female whose appearance was consistent with the given age of 48 years. The body measured 5 feet 2 inches in length and weighed 255 pounds. She was received and clothed in a white nightshirt with floral print, which is what was on the floor in the crime scene photos next to the body, next to the bed. There were multiple cuts in the upper back of the nightshirt, and these defects corresponded to the positions of stab wounds on the back of the descendant's body. The upper front of the nightshirt was bloody as well as was all of the back of the nightshirt. There was a religious pendant on a string necklace that was about the neck. Cuts in the necklace corresponded to cuts on the back of the descendant's neck. Paper evidence bags were placed over the hands. Prior to further examination of the body, the fingernails were clipped and collected. Oral swabs, vaginal swabs, rectal swabs were collected. Combed pubic hair and pulled pubic hair was collected, and pulled head hair was collected. The clothing, as well as all of the items of trace evidence, were taken into evidence by the Greene County Sheriff's. All right, we're going to go over the evidence of injury. There were 17 jab wounds. For purpose of description, the jab wounds are numbered from 1 through 17. The numbering is arbitrary and is not intended to indicate the order in which the wounds were received. So they just went through and did a count, and they did not put this in any kind of order. Where they're going to start with number 1 being the top of the left shoulder. They're going to tell you how long and how deep each wound were and which direction. Then they move on to center of the back, number 2. Number 3, left side of the upper back. Number 4, center of the upper back. Number 5, center of the upper back. Number 6, center of the upper back. Again, they are going through how long, how deep. And in number 5, they even mention it went into the right lobe of the liver, pretty deep. In number 6, it says penetrates into the posterior surface of the lower lobe of the right lung. Number 7, again, telling you it's in the center of the middle back. It's going to tell you how wide, how deep. And then it says it penetrates into the posterior surface of the lower lobe of the right lung. Number 8, sharp upper end and blunt lower end. It tells you how long, how deep, and says that it passes through fat, skin, and muscle. Number 9, right side of the upper back. Number 10, right side of the upper back, again, through skin, fat, and muscle. Number 11, right side of the upper back through skin, fat, and muscle. Number 12, right side of the upper back. Penetrates into the right chest cavity, penetrates 1/4 of an inch into the posterior surface of the lower lobe of the right lung. Number 13, far right side of the upper back superior to the right axilla, passes through skin, fat, and muscle. In the right chest, 2 stab. Number 14, right axillary, again telling you how long, how. Pass through the lower recess of the right pleural cavity, then perforates the base of the lower lobe of the right lung, then perforates through the lateral edge of the diaphragm, and then penetrates into the right lobe of the lip. Number 15, right supraclavicular area. Number 15, passes through skin, fat, and muscle. Then it says, in association with the 6 jab wounds that penetrated into the chest, wounds number 3, 5, 6, 7, 12, and 14, there were 250 milliliters of blood and clots in the right chest cavity. There were 500 milliliters of blood and clots in the left chest cavity. There were 100 milliliters of blood and clots in the pericardial cavity, where the heart is. In association with the 2 jab wounds that continued through the diaphragm and into the liver, wounds 5 and 14, there was a trace amount of blood about the liver in the peritoneal cavity. Neck, 2 stab wounds. Number 16, back of the neck to the base of the skull, tells you. Number 17, right side of the back of the neck at the base of the skull, again passes through skin, fat, and muscle. There were multiple incised wounds on the neck, and there was 1 incised wound on the left. So she had 17 jab wounds, as well as multiple wounds on her neck, and a wound on her left hand. Now it's going to tell you about the multiple jab wounds, and it keeps saying multiple. So for everyone going around, including myself, saying that she was jabbed 17 times, she also had more than 6 incised wounds on her neck. That's more than 17 times for everybody who's listening. The body was cool. It was in the early state of decomposition, characterized by the passing of rigor mortis, drying of the fingertips, darkening of the skin of the face, and skin slippage on the face and upper chest. Fixed lividity was present interior. Scalp hair was light brown and was earlobes were cosmetically pure. Bloody fluids on the face, in the nose, in the ears and nose were otherwise unremarkable. Eyes and white sclerae and injected conjunctiva. Cloudy corneas obscured the ear. Neck was obese and had no discernible mass. Thorax was symmetrical. Post-mortem puncture wound in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen. So this wound right here, this was after DeeDee was already unalive. Then it's going to talk about her surgery scars. Her genitalia were of normal adult being. Tattoo on the left side of her back. Tattoos on the lateral side, lower parts of her leg. Another scar on the lower part of her leg. No significant deformity or other abnormality. Polish on fingers and it's going to talk about the measurements of her organs, of her brain, her heart. The 4 chambers of her heart were unremarkable. No defect. No abnormalities of the papillary muscles or chordae tendon. Alimentary system. The esophagus, stomach, small bowel, and colon were unremarkable. Appendix was not present. Stomach had 300 mg of contents consisting of food. No pills were seen among the stomach contents. But we know there's other ways, and there was lots of needles in that out. Thyroid, pituitary, adrenal, unremarkable. It's going to tell us the weight of the kidney. They did a toxicology report, but I want you to remember that some stuff would not be detected that many days later. It was negative for drug of abuse, meaning what? Methamphetamines, cocaine, those types of. Now it's just basically going to summarize everything here for you. All right, so we went over the entire autopsy, and I want you to note that there was nothing unremarkable about her nose, even though if you go and look at the crime scene evidence photos, which you can, Google it, reminder, serious trigger warning. But for the people that are saying that her nose was busted by Gypsy, or for the other people who I've read in my comments recently and come into the chat on libraries stating that there was mutilation of the genitalia, that is not true either. Again, my name is DeeDees. I like to point out the facts of the case and theorize from there. Yes, we do talk theories, but we will let you know when they're theories. These, however, are the autopsy official report, and they are fact. So no, she wasn't punched in her, and no one massacred her genitalia. But we now know that she had more than 17 jab wounds, because the other ones are called incise wounds. These would be a cut made by an object where the length is greater than the depth, made by a sharp object, so a knife, glass,